What's up, everybody? It's Mr. Alfieri. We're looking today at the Section 2 notes for Chapter 12. Civil War has started between the North and the South. Today, we're going to start with some of the Northern disadvantages and the South advantages, which we went over in Section 1 of Chapter 12, which again, you can see here on your notes screen. The North had to fight an offensive war, which again is a disadvantage because they're going to have to invade the South to attack. And we know in many wars, the defender has an advantage because, again, they can kind of hunker down and hide behind walls and cannon fire and all these things. That's going to make it hard to be on the offensive. Also, during the Civil War, we know that the North has very poor leadership. They're going to kind of cycle through general after general during the entire war before they can find one that sticks and that actually is that they're very confident in that they can eventually win the Civil War. We also have a few South advantages. Again, being that they are fighting the defensive war, which is to their advantage, and then they're going to have some very experienced generals, Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson. They're going to be incremental in keeping the South afloat during the Civil War. Now, the strategy of the war plays into one of the big vocab words of this section, which is the Anaconda Plan. And this all plays into the Norse strategy of constricting the South, hence the Anaconda Plan, because it constricts its prey. The North is looking to capture Richmond, which is in Virginia, and that was the Confederate capital. So again, they're kind of going for the heart of their enemy there by trying to go down. Some of them said that they should sail along the East Coast and try to attack Richmond that way. They also want to gain control of the Mississippi River. This is primarily, again, because if they come up from the south and go through the Mississippi River, they can kind of cut off the South, again, literally directly through the heart of America. And that also will control that transportation and travel of supplies, goods, people that can be very helpful during the war. And finally, they hope to set a blockade, which is just setting up Navy warships to stop trade and to try to attack any Confederates along the coast of the country of the United States. So they're looking at kind of boxing them in the lower right side of our country with this Navy blockade. The South strategy was pretty simple. They also were going for, again, the Union's capital, which was Washington, D.C., which again makes sense that both sides are going over the capital to try to take it over as quickly as possible. And they are looking to try to make some kind of silent strikes northward to try to catch the North off guard. And they're hoping that maybe they can win a few of those early battles to kind of sway the tide in their favor. Now, the third and final thing that the Confederates try to do, which nearly works, is they're trying to gain some allies because we saw from the advantages that the South doesn't nearly have the population that the North does. They know that they're going to need help if they're going to win this war. So they're going to reach out to some other countries to try to help them gain that advantage. Now, the first battle was at, again, Bull Run Creek. And this was an advantage for the Confederates. We're going to see that this is the first Battle of Manassas or Bull Run. You can call it either one. And this is really where Stonewall Jackson got his name because he basically rallies his men after they are basically flanked. Now, a flank is essentially the side of an army. So if you have like the whole wall of the army moving forward, it's basically the edges of that. Okay. And Stonewall Jackson introduced something called the Rebel Yell. And the Rebel Yell is essentially the Confederates, again, kind of leading a charge showing aggression against the Union soldiers. And Stonewall Jackson was able to rally his troops to defeat the Union forces. And the Union forces are going to retreat northward. And after this first battle, this is where people are really going to start to see that there's going to be major bloodshed happening in the Civil War. And later, it's just going to cascade into further and further heavy casualty battles. Now, For the armies, the North has 527,000 troops and the South has 258,000 troops. So think about that. That's almost, the North literally has double the amount of troops. Okay. So the South knows it has to be very particular about where it attacks and how they are conducting these battles, because again, it's going to be very difficult for them when they are literally outnumbered 1 to 2, right? So in order to try to increase this numbers, and this is the last part of section 2, the South is going to issue something called conscription. This is the first in American history. Basically, what a conscription is just a draft to force people to fight in the army legally. Okay. Now, anyone in the South who owned 20 or more slaves was exempt from this. So, like large plantation owners, they didn't really have to fight. It was more your lower class, middle class of the South that had to go out and fight in the Southern War for the Confederacy. Now, this caused strife within the South because you'll see the quote there at the bottom that says it's a rich man's war, but a poor man's fight. So they're basically saying the rich people in the South and Confederacy are wanting to fight, but really the poor men are the ones that have to fight because they don't own any slaves. Now, later, the North is also going to institute a draft or conscription. So this again is going to lead to larger armies, larger battles, and unfortunately a larger number of casualties. That takes us to the end of section 2 notes. Hope everyone is doing well. Miss you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.